เรียนโยคะบางนาแต่บ้านอยู่ราชพฤกษ์ไปไหนได้เลยมันเยี่ยมไปไหนได้เลยเนาะใกล้ไปนี่คือไม่ถ่าย
ครึ่งหนึ่งใช่ไหมเต็มตัวด้วยแขนขาด้วยเหรอโอ้โอ้โซน
It's okay.
Combien? Mais bon, c'est pas grave, ça c'est autre chose.
Behind you.
เ
We zijn naar het station.
Weet je hoe het duurde voor een frietje? Dat duurde net
Ik heb een keer 50 minuten opgehouden met Vluggen. Ja, goed. Station, zodat jullie daar jullie eens goed en slot kunnen
Mag je ook op de
Ja, stond er ook. Oh.
Dat is echt niet waar.
Hapa nalipata vizuri je.
I'd say maybe just a little bit more wealthy where those people are down there.
Michael is in this hotel.
Mooi. Kunnen we zo rondgaan om een half wel even doen. Ik zal een oorpak en weer boven maken. Ja joh. Blijven liggen op de. Soms wel wie school op. Er zit Peter zit er vaak bij zo. En er nog niet bij. En als je die ook hebt, is het verder weer
Zo, beste mensen, welkom aan boord. De tweede bootjes van Gent. Wij waren hier op de Leie, een van de twee belangrijke rivieren voor onze stad. In Gent vloeit de Leie in het Schelde. Ja, en ik mag wel stellen, zonder deze samenvloeiing zou onze stad zelfs niet bestaan. Want in vroegere tijden was het transport over het water de enige mogelijkheid om een zwaardere vracht te vervoeren. En al de Romeinen, de Kelten en de Romeinen hadden dit ontdekt en noemden deze plaats Ganda, Gandavum, later Gent geworden en dat betekent letterlijk samenvloeiing. So, behind the bridge we are entering our medieval grain harbor. And already in the 11th century, Ghent obtained a very special privilege from the Counts of Flanders, the staple right on the grain, het stapelrecht op graan, das stapelrecht auf Getreide. That meant that 1/4 of all the grain that came through this harbor, the city could confiscate this grain. Die Stadt konnte das Getreide beschlagnahmen, beslag nemen. And the grain was stored in the oldest building here in the harbor, the grain storage from the year 1200. Unser Getreidespeicher aus dem Jahre 1200, ons speker. Speker is een oud Nederlands woord voor opslagplaats. Speker uit het jaar 1200. Daarnaast het kleine tolhuisje uit de 16e eeuw. Daneben das klitzekleine Zollhäuschen aus dem 16. Jahrhundert. Next to it, the little tiny toll booth from the 16th century. And again next to it, the big guild house of the grain measurers. Daneben das große Zunfthaus der Getreidemesser. Het grote gildehuis van de korenmeters. Of course, if one wanted to know how much 1/4 of a load was, you had to measure. This was a very important profession. To the right in front of us, St. Michael's Church, die St. Michaelskirche, St. Michaelskerk. The church has been built from the 15th till the 17th century, and the rich bakers and brewers were the sponsors. They wanted to build the highest tower in the city, but in the end, in the 17th century, the money went out, and we are still waiting for the tall tower of 134 meters. But it's a very big church with nice glass windows, nice stained windows, and a good acoustic. Here at our left-hand side, we have the most famous 12th century. In the cathedral, you can admire the adoration of the mystic lamb, the famous painting from the 1500s. In the middle, there is the belfry, a watchtower with a golden dragon upon, who always protected the people of Ghent. And in front of us, St. Nicholas Church, 12th, 14th and 13th century. When Napoleon was here in 1800, he used St. Nicholas Church as a stable for its horses. Well, here in Ghent, we needed a lot of grain. We hadden hier veel graan nodig. We brauchten viel Getreide. First of all, to bake bread, because bread was basic food in the 13th century. The potato only came in the 16th century from South America. But we needed a lot of grain, especially to brew beer. Om bier te brouwen, om bier te brouwen. The priests in the churches, they told people, water level? Well, ladies and gentlemen, from there came the holy shit. So,
How did it smell, the holy shit?
not so well. So you have to imagine, in the 13th century, every stone house along the water had toilets, latrines like that. So now you can understand that it was better to drink beer rather than water. Well, to brew beer, om bier te brouwen, om bier te brouwen, you have to boil the water. Das Wasser moest gekocht werden. And that was of course the main reason. De eeuw van Luther kwamen de protestanten en Calvinisten. Zij wilden niets te doen hebben met de katholieken natuurlijk. Wij hier in Gent, wij hadden ook veel protestanten. Maar wij mochten gewoon niet protestant zijn, want in die tijd waren de Spanjaarden hier de heersers. En die waren natuurlijk boven katholiek. Wat is er gebeurd? Al onze protestanten zijn gevlucht naar het noorden, naar Nederland. En zo wil het de geschiedenis dat tegenwoordig in Nederland nog steeds de meeste mensen protestant zijn. En wij in het zuiden katholiek. Ja, wat de geschiedenis kan bepalen natuurlijk. Hè. Voor ons St. Michelsbrücke, in der Mitte sehen wir den St. Michel, der den Drachen am Töten ist, und rechts dahinter das alte Postgebäude. Beide wurden erst gebaut 1910, denn 1913 hatten wir eine Weltausstellung in Gent. Da wollte die Stadt natürlich schön aussehen. In front of us, St. Michael's Bridge, we see in the middle St. Michael, who is killing the dragon, and just behind the old post office. Both only have been built in 1910, because in 1913 we had a world exposition in Ghent, and of course the city wanted to look at her best. They didn't know the word to pimp yet, but what did they do? They pimped the city. And why here? Well, before here was a wooden bridge, a small wooden bridge, but they did build this monumental stone bridge here, because from upon the bridge you have this wonderful sight on the three towers of Ghent. St. Michael's Bridge is the only stone bridge on the River Lys in the city center. And we are entering the medieval grain market again, a busy place in the Middle Ages, and as you can see, it still is. So the first building next to the old post office over there is the guild house of the free shipsmen. Het gildehuis van de vrije schippers, das Zunfthaus der freien Schiffer. 16th century. They could only be men from Ghent, and only they had a right to come here in the harbor. Above, and we look to the house with the yellowish facade and the golden caravel as a weather vane on top. This was the guild house of the unfree shipsmen. Das Zunfthaus der unfreien Schiffer, het gildehuis van de onvrije schippers from the 17th century in Baroque style. They didn't have the right to come here in the harbor, had to pay more taxes. I'll show you in a few minutes where they could go. And then there is still the house with the two swans. Today, the Marriott. If two swans look at each other, they form a heart. And in the Middle Ages, this was the symbol of eternal love. But here, they don't look at each other. So what happens here? Well, in the 16th century, this whole side were all breweries. And in the house with the swans was also a pub for the workers in the harbor. And in that pub there were also ladies, but those ladies were not meant for eternal love, if you understand what I mean. I think you all know the expression the red light district. Well, it also comes from the Middle Ages. If there were ladies of pleasure in the house, a red candle was burned in front of the house. And now in front of us, the fish market from the 17th century, also in Baroque style. Until 1960, we could buy sea fish here. We needed sea fish because our rivers were too polluted and there was no fish anymore in the rivers. Today, the tourist information, a restaurant, and from April till October, a very nice summer bar. The entrance is at the other side at the little Veerleplatz, Veerle market. On this market there is also a lantern. Er is ook een lantaarn en es gibt eine Laterne auf dem Markt. And this lantern is connected to our hospitals, to our maternities. And every time when a little new baby is born in Ghent, the parents can push a button and then the lantern goes on and off. So we know there is a new life in Ghent. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I think you all know the little guy in Brussels who urinates the whole time. U kent het kleine mannetje in Brussel dat de hele tijd pipi doet. You kennen een kleine Burschel in Brussel der die ganze Zeit pipi macht. Well, we also have a mannequin, but ours is much more polite. De onze is beleefd. He only urinates if people are not looking. He is over there at the white facade. In the middle there is Nestor with his two peeing sisters, Lena and Luna.
Plast alleen als niemand ziet.
Ja.
Dus doe het nog.
Well, in the Middle Ages, nearly every bigger city in Flanders had a mannekepis. In de middeleeuwen had bijna elke grotere stad een mannekepis. The little boys, in those days, people believed that the urine of very young boys, under 6, was very concentrated. And those little boys from the poor families, they could go today. Today we have again 23 different kinds of fish in the water. But today a lot of those industrial buildings have got other functions. Also viele von deren industriellen Gebäude haben eine andere Funktion bekommen heutzutage. Some are hotels, some are restaurants, divided in restaurants. All over the city we also have apartments, lofts and exposition halls. They called us the Manchester of the continent because we were the first fully industrialized city of the continent. We waren de eerste volledig geïndustrialiseerde stad op het continent. We waren die eerste vol geïndustrialiseerde. We were, 200 years ago, we were some kind of a Silicon Valley. Very modern, very progressive. That's also the reason why the World Exposition came to Ghent in 1913. Achter de brug, links, zullen we het groot kanon van Gent zien. Onze Dullegriet. Also hinter der Brücke links oben sehen wir die große eiserne Kanone aus dem 15. Jahrhundert, unsere tolle Grete. Here at our left hand side We see the big enforged cannon of Ghent from the 15th century, 12,000 kilograms and 5-meter long. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm very sorry, the cannon never worked very well. It only has been shot once, and what happened? The cannonball fell plop, next to the cannon, and the only man who died was the man who shot the cannon. But nowadays the cannon is closed off in the front and in the back. Well, we are a city with 270,000 inhabitants, and each year, on top of that, 80,000 students. And our students had invented a new sport. Unsere Studenten hatten einen neuen Sport erfunden. With how many people can we get into the cannon? Mit wie viel können wir in die Kanone reinkriechen? The max was 8 persons. Then the city had to call the firefighters, musste Brandwehr erbij halen. Die Stadt musste die Feuerwehr rufen to get them out again. Well, since this incident, the city decided to close off the cannon, of course. And here behind these facades is the oldest part of our city. You can enter over these little alleys. It's really still the street plan like in the Middle Ages. It's called Patershol. In the Middle Ages, here, yes. In the Middle Ages, the administration of the castle lived here. Today, nicely renovated, very expensive to live there. A small renovated medieval house up to 1 million. But you can take a lot of nice walks. In 1854, this was the only place where one could buy or sell meat. The city wanted to control the quality and the price of the meat, so it was easier if they only had to control one place. In the back you see the 3 long windows. That was the chapel. So the butchers could first go to the mass before they started to work. En nu verlaten we de Leie en varen in het kanaaltje de Lieve. Jetzt verlassen wir die Leie und fahren in den Kanal die Lieve. Wenn ich Lieve übersetze, bedeutet das Liebchen. So now we are leaving the river Lies and turning into the canal. In Bruges in the Middle Ages, you were also at the North Sea because the sea came up to Bruges. Later on, the harbor of Bruges has all silted up. Dus later is die haven van Brugge totaal verzand. And nowadays, the sea harbor of Bruges is simply 20 kilometers further on in sea. But now, ladies and gentlemen, take your cameras. I'm always very proud to present to you our fabulous, magnificent, wonderful, fantastic, grand and marvelous and very impressive. Ta-da! Say wow! Onder Philipp van der Elsass und der Grafenstein 1180 gebaut unter Philipp aus dem Elsass. But you can imagine a castle like that wasn't very comfortable. It was cold and humid, and already after a few generations, the counts decided to build another castle a little bit further on. En ook wel eigenaardig dat een dergelijk kasteel zich midden in de stad bevindt. Normaal staat dat voor de stad om de stad te beschermen. Het werd dan ook niet gebouwd om de stad te beschermen, maar om indruk te maken op de Gentenaars. Wij waren altijd nogal moeilijke mensen. En dat was de manier van de graven van Vlaanderen om hun macht te tonen. And here at this place, at the Quay of the Sweetheart, the Quay of the Canal, was the second harbor of the city during the Middle Ages. And the unfree shipsmen, de onvrije schippers, the onvrije schiffer, who didn't have the right to come into the central harbor, they could come here to load and unload. But you have to know, in those days, the water came up to where the facades are. Destroyed the castle during the Industrial Revolution because they needed a lot of space for all the new factories. They could earn a lot of money with factories and they couldn't begin anything with an old castle. The name of the castle was the Court of the Princes, het Prinsenhof, der Prinsenhof. And here in this castle, the most famous inhabitant of Ghent ever was born. The Emperor Charles V, Keizer Karel V, is hier geboren in 1500. Also Keizer Karl V is hier geboren in 1500. And the little bridge in front of us, we call the Bridge of the Imperial Delights, het brugje van de keizerlijke vreugden, die brücke der kaiserlichen Freuden. And the four statues tell about the love life of our emperor. Because our emperor, Charles V, in English, you have a wonderful expression for it. He was some kind of a ladies' man. He had more than 50 children all over Europe. But then he had a very vast empire. It was Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, North, South, Netherlands, Spain, and overseas, Middle and South America too. So the poor man, he couldn't be everywhere at once. He always took very good care of his children, and in return, they helped him with his politics, of course. Dus hij heeft minstens 2 keer plezier gehad van zijn kinderen. Hè? These, if the doors of the locks were opened, a territory of about 13 square kilometers behind could be flooded to keep the enemy on a distance. But you have to know, around Ghent there was no wall, but there was a ring of water around Ghent. And there were 9 entrance gates. The Rabat was one of them, but it's a pity, it's the only one that's left. In Deutschland habt ihr auch so ein Gebäude? Weiß jemand wo? Ich höre es? In Lübeck, ja, genau, in Lübeck. Da ist es aber noch viel größer. Ne? In Lübeck. En nu speciaal voor de Nederlanders. Vito! Vito!
We gaan daaraan leggen, zie je dat?
Thank you.